Your audiovisual is based on theory from the book and lectures. Mention 5 theoretical aspects that you use in your audiovisual and explain them.
In this project, we have found information about the next theoretical aspects: individualist, collectivist, high and low context, power distance, uncertainty avoidance, and polychronic or monochronic time perception. One of these theories is about people carry individualist collectivist tendencies. It means that people prefer living on their own or in group. In the case of the Netherlands, indicates a high individualism in the society, because the population is more interdependent and looks out for themselves and their families. Dutch people are encouraged to pursue and develop their abilities and aptitudes. A change in Mediterranean countries tend to be more collectivist, which means that the majority of people live in societies. People need to be all together and taking group decision making. The next theory is high and low context. This dimension of culture relates norms of communication. In the case of the Netherlands, there is a low context because they are more individual and interdependent with their families. In the case of Spain and Greece, are high context because the decisions and activities focus with their group's family, friends or workmates. According to Hofstede's dimension is focused on equal and inequality between people in the country. The Netherlands has a small power distance, which there is a little difference between the higher and lower income class. For instance, in the case of family, children are treated equally. They are led to take control of their own affairs. In the workplace, workers and bosses are treated equally. Workers are educated and superior should be accessible. In school life, it is also a small power distance because students can ask questions or they can give their own opinions. In the case of Spain and Greece, they have a large power distance, which in family life there is a strict hierarchy among family members. In addition to these theories, another important aspect is uncertainty avoidance, which is a concept between cultures feel threatened by uncertain or unknown situations and tries to avoid them. Dutch people has low uncertainty avoidance, which can assume that they live from day to day and are more willing to accept change and take risks. On the other side, Mediterranean countries have a high uncertainty avoidance. Greek and Spanish people prefer to avoid uncertainty as a cultural value. Finally, the last theoretical aspect would be polychronic or monochronic time orientation. Spain and Greece are monochronic countries because time is thought as physical and they work with schedules and they can do one activity at a time. Cultures with this characteristic are low context. On the other side, the Netherlands is a polychromic country. People can do many things at the same time and they are opposed to a strict adherence to schedules. In this case, they are high context culture.
What is the goal of your audiovisual?
The main goal is to explain that family, work and studies coexist in the daily life of everybody. We want to test if there are distinctive differences between Mediterranean countries and the Netherlands.
Who is your target group, and why is your message relevant to this target group?
The target is young people between 18 and 25 years old. The video is focusing students. For this reason, the interviews are made by university students. This is relevant because this group of people are students. As a university student, you came across with different cultures while you are studying. We want to remove stereotypes, if there are any, for people not to have bias.
What is the message you wanted to get across?
We have selected these topics to compare each country. Finally, we want to get the differences between the cultures. So we want to conclude that the Netherlands and Mediterranean countries have differences and similarities. For this reason, we have chosen family, work and studies to check our first premise. In a slide overview, we have found that there are some discrepancies between them. If we analyze the concept high-low context, we can see that Spain and Greece have a high context, and the Netherlands has a low context. Secondly, with the concept individualism and collectivism, the Netherlands is an individualist country, whereas Spain and Greece are collectivist. So this is the reason why we have started to research.
Have you achieved your goal? From your audiovisual, which examples illustrate your goal message best and why those?
Our goal was to check if there were some differences between Mediterranean countries, Greece and Spain, and the Netherlands. We chose this comparison because we are studying abroad and we were curious about the new country where we are living. We used the qualitative method for doing our research by techniques of the interview. We thought that it was the best method to realize about all the aspects that we wanted to learn. After the whole process, we can say that we have achieved our goal. We discovered new information about Greece, Dutch and Spanish cultures. Information we didn't know before. Following the concepts learned at class, the Netherlands is an individualist country, whereas Greece and Spain is collectivist. Moreover, the Netherlands has a low context, and Greece and Spain have a high context. As I said, the interviews have illustrated the best ways to get all the information. We get in contact with the different points of view of each student. Moreover, we found the rest of the information that there is in the video in articles on the website in which we have based to describe each topic. We also use our experience to complement the information we have found. What would you do differently in terms of content if you had the assignment again?
We would try to search and find information about love and relationships. Also, we could put a questionnaire to be answered by a group of Spanish, Greek and Dutch people. Last but not least, photos of our family members from everyday life, work and study time.
State your own critical questions regarding the content of the audiovisual and answer it. Have you put enough videos for the people to understand the main goal of the project?
Well, we think that the videos we have put are not enough, but with the concrete questions that we have chosen, the reader can understand the main differences between the three of the cultures and learn the most important things about them. From this assignment, I learned many things about Dutch people and their culture. I learned about the characteristics of their culture that I previously ignored, about the way they communicate, their monochronic character, and low context communication. I also learned about the values of the family and the working conditions. I also learned some things about Spanish culture, which is similar to the Greek, especially in terms of family and working, as they are both collectivistic societies, but it also has some differences in the educational system. Last but not least, I realized how the culture of one nation affects the way people treat with everything associated with their everyday life.
Doing this assignment, I have learned how each country develops study, work and family. I learned interesting things about each culture that I ignored before. I realized that Greek and Spanish cultures have similarities in terms of family. I understand how each country has their own education system and it is totally different between them. What it makes me attract is that although all the countries are European, there are two differences. For example, the individualism of Dutch people or the collectivism of Greek and Spanish.
I have learned from this assignment the different values and behaviors that people have in their own cultures, how we communicate between us or how we usually interact. Some values might benefit us, while some make us worse off. Besides, I recognize that Greek culture has similarities with Spanish culture. For instance, we have the same cultural orientation. We are collectivists and high context. In contrast, the educational system in the Netherlands is very different from the one in Spain. Doing this audiovisual, I have enriched my own personal culture and I have changed my point of view. As I mentioned before, I have seen that the educational system between Spain and the Netherlands have a big difference. In Spain, it's so easy to go through the levels of education, while in the Netherlands, it depends on your round. Go through the levels is not easy and it's hard way to arrive to the top WBO.